Good evening and welcome to the regular meeting of the Mattacheese Utilization Committee, MUC, on December 11th, 2025. We have posted our agenda in the town's website. It's a Zoom meeting and it is recorded. I need to take a roll call. John Anderson,
Here.
Andrew Laird,
Present.
Barbara LeBoing,
Present.
Lindsay Petro,
Here.
Joe Potska. Not here. And Casey Schmidt has advised that he's traveling for his business. Sharon Weimer is here and Roby also traveling. So we have a quorum, and so we will call to order the meeting. Well, I called to order the meeting prior to the roll call, but is there any public comment? Seeing none, we will move to updates and discussions. We had a December 10th meeting with the Cape Cod Chamber and the Yarmouth Chamber regarding sports complexes. And that was yesterday. And I just finished comments, kind of a sheet that really covered the comments. They weren't asked, the questions weren't asked numerically, but in conversation, we attempted to get all the questions answered to some degree. And you just received it, unfortunately, but I only had time of late to do it. And I'm not sure if I should read some of this or say you have it and then we'll come back.
I did send it electronically now, so those at home.
Yeah. And traveling. Well, maybe what we should try to do was short comments about the update. It was a meeting with the administrative staff work group that's doing phases 6 and 7. And Mary Vilbon chaired the meeting over at the Yarmouth Chamber, and Paul Nitzwitzy, oh, I have a horrible time with his name. Nitzwicki of the Cape Cod Chamber was there to answer questions from Bob Wittenauer, Amy, Megan, Kathy Williams, and Brandon. And I did not look up the spelling of your name, so I just realized it. I said, "Oh,
Don't worry.
it's a creative last name." Before everybody arrived, because we all arrived at a little bit different time, Mary Vilbon did talk before being arrived, and we arrived and indicated before that there is another site, the Cape Cod Community College site, that has been on the Chamber's list of sites that might have interest in doing something similar, or they might have interest in doing something similar there. She also indicated that the town of Barnstable also has a sports committee. The Cape Cod Chamber has a sports committee that's helping to find areas to continuing developing on the Cape. So when all the members were present, Bob began his conversation with kind of a big picture overview of what the town has or doesn't have. And one of it is money for MUC. As well as many other things. So that was reiterated again, something we've heard before. And so because there is no money for MUC, whatever the recommendations, it didn't matter. They would then travel to a public-private partnership and seeing if that opportunity is realistic and feasible, which is what the staff is going to be looking at in phase 6 and 7. Bob also mentioned that there's no debt drop-off from anything prior in terms of big. And a lot of times when you have debt drop-off, you can replace it with other debt. But there's no place to really take on a lot of debt without increasing taxes for people. So he wanted to make sure everyone was aware of that. And there hasn't really been a lot of renovation of any buildings or replacement for a number of years. And so that makes it difficult about the debt. But also it is coming forward other capital projects through the capital committee in terms of a number of items that are needed for the buildings. So there's a lot of competition for monies within the town. And the only way that Muck is going to proceed is maybe through a private developer. And he was also asking about the process of another one involved, because he doesn't want to compete with something and spend a lot of money, obviously, if somebody's going to tell them quickly that, oh, they've decided to go such and such a site. So he's also asked Paul to speak about that, and he did. And the site that they're considering was a 20-acre site for the Cape Cod Community College that was donated to them. And it has topography issues for the developers. Must be hilly or that they're not wild about. So that's one. They are close to an exit. So that's a plus, and you don't have to go through neighborhoods to that site. So that's a plus for that site. But the topography was one. The other was leadership at the Cape Cod Community College in terms of not having a real decision about someone that can go to and work through this whole process with them. And then I'm thinking also, Kathy, he mentioned, there was one other thing he mentioned.
Access to hotels.
Pardon?
Access to hotels.
Right, and that was our benefit in terms of Yarmouth.
It's state land, so they didn't have to
Yeah,
go through zoning
zoning.
or the Cape Cod Commission DRI process.
But-
That's a huge
Yeah.
benefit.
That is.
And so, but the negative also was that they did have to go through the historic district.
They're in Old Kings Highway, so.
Yeah. So he said it really wasn't being pursued right at the moment because of those kinds of issues, and that Yarmouth was looked upon as a more favorable site in terms of those competing kind of thoughts. He was asked who it was. He did not receive the grant that he hoped to receive for helping with the revision of the 214 study. That was a $15,000 grant, but he did say they were willing to use their own $15,000 to do one. But when he was asked later, who was the person doing was it the 2014 consultant? He said, yes, it's the same consultant doing it. And then the question became, well, was it just for the town of Yarmouth or was it for a regional? And he indicated it was regional. He suggests that if he were to do it, it would probably take about 3 months to do it, which might be a consideration for the phase 6 and 7 folks. And let's see. If I'm forgetting something as you're reading along with me, let me know. He was then asked by Bob whether he would be willing to use that money in conjunction with Yarmouth to do a study or maybe some other options. I'm not clear about how far he wanted to go with that question, but Paul did say they would be interested. So that was a plus. So they will work that out as to who's going to pay for what and when and how that's going to happen. He also spoke to the sports meeting group that he's developed through the Cape Cod Chamber, and he stated he has invited Mary Vilbon to the committee. So that's a good thing because now we have a Yarmouth person for sure within the committee to advise anything going on. He also, when he was talking about the different sites, he did indicate that one of the pluses, that was the other thing. The other plus was that it already has lots of parking. But then he noted that parking's not that substantial of cost. And then later he suggested that there were 1,200 parking spaces that might be needed for that kind of recreational size thing, but I don't know that he knows what Yarmouth's
Yeah.
requirements
We're not gonna
are.
have 1,200 parking spaces.
But he said it might be needed for tournaments, and that other off-Cape sites actually charge money for people,
That's the key.
$10 a space for the tournament time. So that was all part of the different sites. The only other person he knew was the gentleman down in Mashpee. His name is actually Bill Russell, who has built the pickleball courts down there that have opened recently. They also have some golf simulating features in there as well. And I think he's happy with his experience down there, and he's looking for other ideas. He says that's the only other person he knows of in town where there might be interest to start to think of what we're doing. But for him, he really wanted more of our neighborhood or area, because it could draw from Orleans and up. So I think that was a quick comment he made. When asked about the size of a sports facility, he mentioned, as he had in our September meeting, the 100,000 to 120,000 square foot building. Kathy mentioned that we're planning on the bigger option, the 120,000. When asked about design of fields and numbers, whether rectangular fields or specifically built softball fields or, I don't know, lacrosse fields, he stated the larger multi-use fields would be more beneficial to the sports complex. And four, although he talked initially about 6, he said 4 would be enough, and acknowledged when asked they have a value to a developer to help with income for building costs and due to use for tournaments, etc. He hadn't asked us, he was not asked here, as we did, as to whether it would matter if the fields were elsewhere. But I do remember his comment that he didn't think it mattered, as long as people that are going to stay in motels on 28 are going to go on 28 for restaurants and all that kind of stuff. So they probably wouldn't care where they go for the fields. And I didn't write it down, but they used to do this in Yarmouth. They used to do an off-season soccer tournament that was quite big. And they used every soccer field in the town of Yarmouth, and it was that October weekend. And that people came and stayed, and there were quite a few people that came to that memorable, and they did a nice job. But for some reason, they ended. I'm not sure why. And I do note in here that Kathy has noted to me the problems with Sandy Pond in terms of fields would be, I didn't put the act down, I could never remember, 97, whatever that is, but the same as the Joshua Sears playground problem. And out of interest for recreation, I don't know where I'm going, I asked about the land the DPW is using for lots of debris. And was that not part of the Sandy Pond area? And perhaps down the road could look in that clarification as well. When asked what town would need to do prior to entry of a developer, he didn't specifically say removal of hazard waste, but obviously it needs to if you're he does want demolition to make it easy for a developer to build, and the costs. He'd like the land level. He had an expression. Do you remember the expression he used?
I think he just wants a level, nothing there.
Yeah, right.
You know, no buildings and anything like that would be an obstruction or would cost them extra money in order to have to take down.
Yeah. And Paul was also asked about housing, and initially he said that outside of ME Small and some housing could be had. Initially, he stated 35 to 38 units. Later, when asked if, later Paul stated that he knew of 3 developers who were interested in doing something on the Cape. 2 were private companies, and 1 was a private equity company out of Boston who had initial interest in sandwich land some time ago. And the Mass Convention Center is a harder sell, as they would not want to operate a facility. And later, when asked if any of the three consultants asked about doing housing, he said actually stated one company did ask. And when I spoke to the select board's comments, I did want to mention that the person who spoke of reducing housing numbers from the 60s, they were not talking about reducing housing, they were talking about reducing affordable housing. And only to the level that would still qualify them for the state requirement of needing 10% affordable housing for the full time. Paul then stated that 60 would be fine too. And Kathy reminded him that the talk is about different types of housing for that location. In terms of the newest field study has arrived, and a very high estimate for doing the fields at Mattacheese. I think it was 130,000
Million.
area.
137.
36 million.
Oh, you're talking about the area?
Yeah,
Oh, I don't know.
I thought it was the fields.
I don't know. I don't recall.
At Mattacheese?
Was it the fields?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was just the fields. They weren't talking about doing anything else.
No, there's a building.
There's a building.
There's a building.
There's a building in the study?
Yeah.
How did they get to do that when they were charged with only doing fields?
I think it was just a concept that had been talked about at the time, and the consultant just wanted to show them what something could look like if you wanted to do all recreation at Mattie's. I don't think it ever really was something that was being requested for by the Recreation Commission. I did not go to those meetings, so I don't know.
Was it similar to what they showed for like their team idea? You know, how we had all the teams, each group did a.
No, this was different. Different.
Oh, what I was told by the former assistant was that this was being done, the field study, for the benefit of our recreation community people.
That's the intent.
And it was only about fields and nothing to do with courts even, which people were upset about, not including courts. But it was supposed to be fields, so it is interesting that somehow this went beyond. And so you're saying that part of the study was for $137 million with including a sports facility?
No, there's no, I don't think there's a sports facility. It might be like a recreation.
Huge
building.
town recreation, I thought
Yeah.
they were looking at.
Yeah, so I mean, I have to, I just received this study, so I haven't looked very closely at it at all. But they did have a concept plan for Mattacheese, which really has, it was for recreation. It doesn't have really anything to do with this. It was just kind of like, I think, a placeholder for recreation if nothing was to go there with this planning.
Fascinating to me. Scope doesn't matter, right?
Sort of a, if, in hopes if we get it, kind of a thing.
No,
No.
I don't think it even had, really what I think should have happened was, they probably should have been coordinating a little bit with Muck in order to kind of see what you were planning here, but I don't think that occurred.
No,
I
we
think
only,
It was really more just a conceptual plan for fields at that location, but there are the buildings, I believe.
well, both Steve and Steve did come to our muck meeting. And they were happy with the fields at Sandy Pond that they were including in Plan B, I think it was, from the July study. So that's what we heard, and that they had no thoughts that there would be anything additionally added to
That
this
matters.
final report, which I kept asking about because I wanted to share it with this committee.
They didn't add it. It was just one of the things that they looked at, but the Recreation Commission did not recommend that at all. They recommended my.
I'm not saying the
understanding-
Recreation Commission probably didn't even know about it, and I don't know how that happens.
I don't know. I wasn't.
Okay. Move on, I guess.
Anyway, Paul, when he heard that figure, because Bob was out of his mind when he heard that figure, thought that it was high, and he suggested a $40,000 to $60,000 area.
$1 million.
$1 million. Now I'm hearing a million because I was thinking, well, they're only doing fields. How can they possibly be 130 million? But anyway,
Included.
I obviously didn't know what was in it. He also introduced talking about long-term funding to help with long-term funding. And while long-term funding wouldn't repay capital, it would perhaps operational through a whole Cape paying, I wasn't quite sure of the word, whether it was convenience or convention tax.
Convention, I thought it was.
Convention tax.
Tax.
Yeah.
And so he states the Commonwealth wants to be part of growth down on the Cape. And obviously he feels strongly that a development at the Mattacheese site would include increasing the commercial base directly to the town. Paul was asked about the additional benefits to recreation in town. Recreation would get priority for use of gym and fields. The project, he also tried to define a little bit, would need space for some commercial spaces that would help with paying rent too. And part of that would be related projects. So in other words, it might be a physical therapy space or sports medicine type of building. And also he did include a restaurant as well. Because, and I thought his term was sort of an internal Main Street for the sports facility. So there'd be a little bit of things that are needed that would be appreciated by the people attending. And Mary reminded all attending meeting of the shoulder season request by the Adult Softball League. And there were two that draws normally 2,000 to 4,000 players and needs another softball field here in Yarmouth. And then Bob talked a little bit about the Mass Development Funds grant and needing for a financial feasibility study. The 2,000 grant itself was for pre-development tasks. Is that my understanding?
The mass development.
Right.
Yeah, so after your recommendations, it's more of, the next steps.
Right.
Yeah, pre-development.
But that he indicated 40,000. That's not $40, but 40,000. For the financial feasibility study was also talked about. I don't know how it relates to everything. So, and the other thing Bob mentioned, he was in Florida and spoke with a business about consulting for RFP on attracting developers to the project, which I thought was a good idea. And meeting, everybody ended and thanked Paul a great deal and Mary for doing it. And I think you learned a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good.
I also asked for the select board goals to be included, which they have been, and I thank Mary for doing that. And I just thought it's always good to have it. I don't know if anybody wants to comment about it or if you're all okay with it.
You are included as item 4 on the second page at the bottom.
You're all set. It may be something you want to keep in for any future involvement with the town and that you might have through other committees. The other thing, the draft of the short-term rental has been completed. I happen to go to the committees. I actually have a copy. When I asked for maybe a copy to be delivered to everybody, they weren't quite ready to do that to our committee because they want to review it themselves. So I even haven't had time to even get through the executive summary yet, but it was an interesting meeting talking about the short-term rental. Some of the takeaway was that it isn't necessarily affecting the town of Yarmouth. But there were some items that weren't really fully known by the Donahue Institute because real estate agents also rent properties, and that isn't necessarily followed by somebody. So,
Even word of mouth.
yeah, if it's bothersome to neighbors, they should probably complain. And just check that everybody's required to do a rental permit for any short-term rental. The fear is always that the people aren't doing it, so. And then they're missing opportunities to follow that process. So I just thought I'd at least make a comment about it. Actually, that was Kathy's idea, even though we don't have the study to look at. If it does go public finally, certainly will give a comment, send it out to you, because I do think it's important for different people to make comments and partake of any kind of information that's going to help them decide things. And if people are interested enough to be on this committee, and other committees, capital and finance, then, they would like to maybe make a comment or two. So that might help. It might be opening somebody's eyes. Let's see. Other boards and committees. As I said, I went to the Recreation Committee yesterday, and so I did make a Cape Cod disc packet for you. Cape Cod disc is sort of a growing fun thing to do for people and families and youngsters, but it does require identifying some land that they can use. And they have done so in different parts of the Cape. I think there's one in Sandwich, I think in Barnstable too. And they're becoming competitive. And so it's kind of an interesting recreational side note to possibilities for any site really in the town. So I wanted to give that to you. I'm going to introduce Heather again. And Heather, welcome. And I'll let you do your concept design comments and plans, and also the sports complex benchmarking.
Sure. So I have Aksa on the call with me here. She's been helping me with all of this analysis and work. Before we started to really draw out the sports facility in a lot of detail, we decided it was worthwhile to spend some time compiling a Excel spreadsheet of different examples across the New England region that we could find related to these large multi-field, multi-sports complexes. So what we did was we have profiles for more than a dozen regional sports complexes across New England. And the information included the facility, size, square footage, in some instances, the actual site size, amenities that were included, whether they were indoor or outdoor, target audience, the year they were opened, any zoning or permitting considerations that were publicly available. The website we linked to each one that we could find, and a couple of other kind of notes that we were able to find. So I would like to share a document I compiled that it really identifies the key findings from the facility, the work that we've done. And I think this shows kind of the thought that we've put into the size of the building, and it echoes what we are hearing from Sharon in terms of the conversation that was had with the Cape Cod Chamber. In terms of the regional facilities, they vary widely in scale, but they're large multi-field, multi-sport complexes. Multiple indoor turf fields, multiple basketball, volleyball courts. There are other related spaces, fitness centers, batting cages, training, concessions, pro shops, party rooms. And then there's significant outdoor field capacity that goes along with all of this. In some instances, there were compatible uses next door. So where there was, a strictly indoor turf type of setup, then there was an adjacent arcade and outdoor kind of entertainment facility. And in those instances, they were not directly related in terms of ownership, but the owners were working with each other to make sure that their uses complemented each other. So that falls into another point later on that I'm going to make about having it be a year-round experience. Construction costs vary. They generally fell into predictable ranges. So where the costs were identified, we were looking at between 20 and $40 million. Could be even higher than that, depending on how much larger a facility is. That's scaled with how many turf indoor fields there are, how many indoor basketball and volleyball courts there are, pickleball courts, roof heights, the number of amenities in terms of the kind of exterior site, how many outdoor fields there are, and what types of outdoor fields there are. So on average from our benchmarking, I think the size was approximately 110,000 square feet of a building space. That does not account for the outdoor field space in any way, shape, or form. So it's pretty consistent with the numbers that are being discussed with the chambers. Most of the successful facilities serve both youth and adults, so that creates that strong year-round demand. So you have youth leagues and clinics, adult leagues, club sports, tournaments, school teams, special events, and that's essential for financial stability for whoever is operating the complex. Um, so there's that revenue diversity. You have facilities that are often privately developed, but have that partnership with the municipality. Um, they often require zoning flexibility. There were some examples that we found where there were definite like zoning board actions that were required. There was definite permitting that was required. There was some legal challenges that came up related to some of the development. So, that public-private collaboration and having that strong relationship with the developer, where the community feels their needs are being heard and being accommodated for, is critical to a successful project at the end of the day. Many of the facilities started small and then expanded. So in some of them, you would see that there was a 60 to 80,000 square foot building footprint as one leg of a facility, and then they added on the same kind of size wing to the site so that they were able to double their size over a certain number of years. So there's been multiple additions for several of the facilities we were able to find in our research, and that the demand for turf and tournament capable spaces has been growing steadily for the last 20 years or so. As you see kind of youth sports and club sports evolve into more of a year-round experience, the weather plays a role in the need for indoor facilities. So location matters, and most complexes are in accessible areas. So proximity to highways, large land parcels, and regional catchment areas is, part of what makes these facilities successful. And then just, I think overall, there is a market demand that exists within New England for sizable multi-sport, multi-use complexes. Tournament capacity is a crucial differentiator when it comes to having the larger developments that, are over 100,000 square feet in size. The facility scale should match the regional competition, whatever that is. There are opportunities here for features that are missing or underserved within the region. So I think just overall, it's a lot of echoing what's been heard already and reinforcing that, you know, in terms of demonstrating the need and finding the right developer, that there really is a true potential for having a sizable development at the site here for this type of use.
Any questions? Did you, I'm gonna mess up her name.
Aksa.
Aksa. You were the one that pulled this together, the different benchmarking. Did you find any particular one, Cape Codish, or are they all like field houses and not too different?
A lot of them were similar. The only thing that I found different was some of those buildings, and I mentioned this when we were looking at concepts earlier, were that there were some that were done in phases. So the one in Danvers, there were two 80,000 square foot buildings, and one was done in 2011 and the other one was added in 2014. So that's one way to maybe phase it out in terms of both costs, but also the orientation of it was unique in terms of fitting multiple uses on the site.
Thank you. Any other questions? Andrew, any?
No, it's, there's a number of 4 kicks.
Mm.
Are they
Three.
pretty much a standard footprint, or how do they?
All three of them were different, and I'm not sure if you have the packet in front of you, but I can pull up the different square footage for each of those. And I can
There's
also pull these up in Google Earth. So I don't know if I have the capability of sharing my screen, but one of them is 135,000 square foot building, and that's just one long rectangular building. And then we
You should
have,
be able to share your screen, Aksa.
okay, let me do that. So this is are you able to see my screen?
Yep. It's not quite come up yet, but we see some. There we go.
Okay. Let me on the side also pull it up my benchmarking. So this is the one in Marlborough. And this is 135,000 square feet, and it's just one rectangular building. It has parking, and then has parking along 2 multi-use fields as well. And then we have, give me 1 second, I'm going to find the other 2.
How do they mark the fields if they're multi-use? Just out of curiosity.
They tend to use different color paint when they mark them. So white paint would mean a certain, maybe soccer field. Red paint could mean lacrosse or field hockey. I've seen blue paint, I've seen yellow paint. So that's how they differentiate between the uses.
Thank you.
This one right here is another 4Kicks facility. It is in Norfolk. I don't know how you say it. I don't know how you pronounce that. But that says 85,000 square foot, so it's smaller. A lot smaller than the one in Marlborough, which is 135,000. And
Do you know-
then
Do you know offhand the differences within?
yes, we do. So the one in Marlborough has 7 indoor sports fields, 2 basketball courts, 4 volleyball courts, an indoor driving range, and then the 2 lighted turf game fields that we saw earlier. And then it also has like other amenities like a fitness center and a shop, and it's for all age groups. And then comparing that one to this one, it has 5 indoor sports facilities, 2 basketball courts, 4 volleyball courts, indoor driving range, outdoor lighted par 3 golf course. So that's here. So it has
They-
more.
Are they artificial turf? The fields, do you know?
We can look into that. I don't know if it's maybe because
most
it's an indoor sports
instances-
fields. Yeah.
I would say in most instances they are turf fields. Some of them did specify that, but we can see if there's a huge difference. For one of the facilities that I'm familiar with, the Mass Youth Soccer, it's not on the spreadsheet, but the Mass Youth Soccer Association has a central facility in Lancaster, Massachusetts, and they have a mix of turf and regular grass fields. But all of their turf fields are kind of on one side of their complex, and all of the grass fields are kind of on the other side of the complex with the parking separating between. So, but from what I've seen, a lot of them are that artificial turf.
Do you have any information as to the cost of building first, and then also the cost of, just out of, again, kind of curiosity, in terms of how often they have to be repaired, or and specifically talking about artificial, I guess, but
Yeah, we didn't do that deep
you
of a
don't,
dive in terms
yeah,
of the kind of maintenance of a turf field or anything like that. But I think that, I mean, just in terms, I have children who play soccer, so I'm familiar with some of the turf fields around the area, and I mean, they're meant to last for 10 to 20 years before they need to be replaced or kind of reworked or anything like that. So,
thank you. Appreciate your comments, so.
mhm.
Mhm.
Heather, do these
And
facilities have food services?
Some of them do. And we marked that down in there, especially when there's indoor tournaments and the like, there's definitely kind of a bar area or a, concession area. Um, I think some of the other ones probably bring in food trucks. I know with Mass Youth Soccer, because it's an outdoor facility, they bring in food trucks to help serve the people who are attending and the audience watching. So there's all kinds of different opportunities for collaboration in terms of the amenities and how those those happen. There's also the opportunity for like conference and function centers, um, the pro shop, um, some of the amenities that they talk about are like inflatable indoor park, like the bouncy houses for younger kids who may not be in a program, but they have siblings who are, so they need something to do. Arcades that are within the facility. So I think it
yeah,
really all depends on what is around in the area and if there's a market for that kind of niche
yeah.
complementary use.
So this is the third one. This is in Taunton. And this is the largest of the three. It's 180,000 square foot. And it's also the more recent. It was, well, compared to the other two, this opened in 2014. And this one has a lot of other amenities other than sports. So it has like the inflatable indoor park, a family fun center, conference and function center, a fitness center, 11 indoor sports fields, 4 turf game fields, indoor driving range, volleyball courts, basketball courts. Yep.
May I ask a question?
Sure.
In doing this, did you come up with some type of parking ratio based on the square footage of the building or something like that to estimate what it would be? Or I didn't really see specific number of parking spaces on the spreadsheet.
Right. No, from what I did for the analysis, it looks like it's similar to like an event space where it would be, 3 per like 1,000 square feet. Um, but it did, if you look at the aerials, it all depends on
Mm.
how many fields there are, how big the facility is, how many parking spaces are able to be fit in there. I'm sure that there's probably some that had to go through a zoning board permitting process in terms of the parking conversation as well.
Mhm.
Um, we can dig in a little deeper when we start to really hone in on what we have available for the space based on the field siting, the building siting, the circulation, and see where we can maximize parking, but also make sure that there is adequate green space around as well.
Are a lot of these in industrial areas? And this one looks like it's kind of in an industrial area.
Looks it.
Yes, I think there is a lot of that that you'll see because the building itself is more like a big warehouse in a way. It's a big wide open space. So you're having a building that's kind of similarly, I don't want to say similarly constructed, but it has a similar kind of look because it's just a big box.
Field house, basically a field
Yes.
house. Mhm.
Yeah. And I think that you'll find that there's not a lot of windows in these facilities unless you're looking at like a front door, front area. But for the most part, they're pretty solid construction in the sense of indoor, there's a lot of lighting, but not.
Did they have air conditioning?
I think they probably have to. They have some kind of air system because in the winter it gets cold in those kinds of buildings, and in the summer it'll get hot. So,
Well, this is interesting.
May I ask a quick question?
Sure.
I think my notes said that we're looking, if we're doing this, it's going to be 100,000 square feet or more. Otherwise, it will be
Mhm.
more. So, the one that was in Taunton, that's almost like double. It's 180. Well, I mean, that was, I guess, my question.
Yeah.
It says 180,000 square feet for the building, but how big was that full property when we saw that with the um
The
fields?
four fields.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can look at the square footage. So when we're looking at the benchmarking to see how it would fit well into Mattacheese properties, we are looking into how that would fit. The difference is that the field orientation and what we're adding might
Hmm.
fit different configurations, so that square footage might look different when it's in the Mattacheese properties. Because we're going off of the field study that was done by Weston and Sampson in terms of orientation and some other amenities. But we are looking at configurations to look at how it would fit generally into the site. And this example on the screen is an example I was talking about earlier where the shape's a little bit different. So we can kind of move around how the building is in terms of fitting in other amenities. But also, this was an example where it was done in two phases. So one building was built in 2011 and the other one opened in 2014. And each of them are 80,000 square feet. So in terms of funding, that's another option to phase out like how something's constructed in terms of cost, but also layout to fit other amenities in there. So I think it's connected here.
And that's only an indoor facility.
Could you zoom out a second, Ax, and show the housing on the right? I'm just curious.
Yeah. And a lot of them do have, like, maybe not on the same parcel, but like housing near the facilities.
Yeah, it looks like apartment-y type complexes there.
We could also
Is that
just,
solar on
Sure looks
Oh,
like-
yeah.
Yeah, there's solar on the roofs of a lot of them.
I
that's
keep
what
looking
the,
for the shingles. The solar shingles.
Yeah, and some
Yeah.
of my neighborhood has them put on and they
Really?
look very
Really?
realistic, yeah.
Oh,
On
they're
top
out.
noise, yeah. Yeah, I was just kind of wondering what it was. It seems like it's more like an apartment complex.
Mhm.
And again, on the other, okay, it's good to know.
Any other questions or follow-up questions on the benchmarking?
I'm just hoping, Heather, you did an excellent summary there that you went through. If you could just send that electronically.
Right.
Absolutely.
That was very well done. Thank you.
And,
Um,
yeah,
I was just gonna say, in terms of the site plans, we had met with the town yesterday and we had presented some of the options and there was some changes that were requested for us because we want to make sure we're getting this right the first time in terms of getting the information out to the public. There are some ongoing conversations, and Kathy, I don't know if you want to speak to this a little bit more about the housing part of it and how we're going to be working to represent that housing so that we're being mindful of what's been heard throughout the community conversations we've had and really reflecting that character and the ideas that were presented to us. So it's still a work in progress. We're just not there yet where we're comfortable in sharing them with the larger committee and the public.
We're going to be meeting as staff. We wanted to make sure that Mary Wagon, our housing specialist, could be involved so that we're kind of getting her, all this kind of staff on board that can help get the committees on board before we present something to the public, as Heather said, because you only have one opportunity to make a first impression on this. And we don't want to be doing things that might be startling to people or not what they were thinking. From an internal standpoint, you know, the different land use groups, especially housing, because we're kind of concentrating on housing and recreation. So we're going to be meeting on Monday, and hopefully early next week we can get some additional guidance to BSC group on that. I think they have some guidance. You've done a great job here on the sports complex, and maybe even some of the comments we briefly talked about yesterday. I mean, this sounds like you guys have done a really good analysis, and there's a lot of good information there to incorporate in addition to the comments that we made. So yeah, it's just want to get it right the first time before the public sees anything. And you unfortunately are the public. So once you guys see it, it becomes public as a committee.
Any comments from anybody?
No.
Not really sure what you're talking about in terms of the housing, so it's kind of not available for us to comment about, so we'll wait till the next meeting. I think you had your January meeting. It was bringing back the concepts, is that correct?
Yes.
So I guess we wait till then, right? Or are you going to the select board beforehand?
No, we're going to you next.
Okay.
We can talk about the schedule now if you'd like.
Sure.
I want to pull it up so that I can share it. I know it's in the packet as well.
The one that's in the packet is the one I sent to you, Heather, with edits.
Oh, there are more edits to
No,
this?
there are not.
So we're at the 12/11 meeting. And our intent was to review the draft concept, but not quite ready yet. But I see the January 8th meeting as reviewing the concept plan, so that's when we'll get the finals, right?
I think there'll still
Yes.
be whatever level they are. And then you guys have an opportunity to comment. And if we need to have another meeting, if there's any edits that need to happen before we meet with the select board, then that's certainly something we're going to have to deal with.
Yeah.
I'm trying
And
to
then,
get-
do you want to make comments about the rest of the schedule? Heather?
Yep, I just wanted to run through it real quick, because I know that there's been some conversations about how far this is going to extend into the spring. For some reason, it is not letting me enlarge my screen at all. But we're looking at coming back to the mock committee in January 8th, to review the concept plans and discuss the select board meeting. We're scheduled to be before the select board again on February 3rd, to review the concept plans. There's another mock meeting scheduled after that on February 12th to review that select board meeting and the feedback that we received, as well as to prepare for the community meeting where we roll out the concepts to the community. That's scheduled to be, we're proposing February 25th. So after school vacation week. And then moving forward with another meeting to kind of finalize and, come up with the final site concepts that we've drafted and present them to the select board and to the committee. So we're looking like we're pushing into April at this point, the beginning of April, to wrap it up. But I think, we want to, like Kathy said, we want to make sure we get this right. We want to make sure that we're kind of dotting all our I's and crossing all our T's and and making sure that what we're drawing is, what the community expects.
Any comments from
No.
any of the members?
No,
Just I'm asking about the February 3rd. Is that that do you need the full MUC committee there, or is that more of a BSC presentation? I wasn't clear on that.
I think that would be a more heavily BSC presentation
Yes.
to the
But
select, sure.
Be there for moral support if I can.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
I'm sure there'll be some introductory comments from Sharon. And then also we had been talking about having some staff give presentation at the end of that, talking about that mass development grant that we have and what the next steps are as part of that grant. Because I don't think the select board fully understands, what's entailed with that and where we're going to be going as this wraps up.
Any other questions?
Just for quorum purposes, I will not be at January 8th if you want to. So I'll have to
Okay.
look at those final studies after the meeting.
Okay, thank you, Lindsay. But if we have them prior to the meeting, we certainly would share them with you so that if you wanted to make any comments, you certainly could leave them. Okay? Any other comments? All right, well, thank you so much, Heather and Aqua. I apologize. We appreciate your involvement. You're welcome to leave if you'd like or stay, whatever is convenient for you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Night. The next are minutes, and look at this. I actually finished minutes from March. I hope you've had a chance to read them. And I would need a motion if you're okay with them. Anybody want to make a motion to accept the March 17th minutes?
Sure, I'll make a motion to accept.
Okay,
Second.
all right, we got 2 seconds.
Andrew.
It has to be a roll call vote when we're off, when we're not all here. So John, are you for the minutes?
Aye.
Lindsay,
Hi.
Andrew,
Aye.
Barbara,
Yes.
and I say yes. Thank you. Other minutes are being reviewed and trying to be finished, so hopefully we'll have some more in the near future. Our next meeting is January 8th, of which Lindsay's talked about not being able to come. And then further presently, as we just talked about, the select board update on February 3rd and our regular meeting on February 12th. We're all set with that. I do want to now go to member questions or comments, and I would like to tell you a couple things. One of which was that I forget where I got this. Oh, from the housing committee I went to. I went to a housing committee member meeting as well. And there they had the copy of, which I haven't sent to anybody because it's just of interest. So the zoning board of appeals was requested to withdraw the comprehensive permit application for 897 Route 28, which is also known as the laundromat. So they have pulled their application for that, and I just thought people are interested all over town, so you might be as well. And I think there were some other issues with it in terms of, they also wrote, I think, the select board or to the select board,
Sounds like
some
they're
of
gonna-
their experience, I guess, so.
It sounds like they're, I didn't
Yeah,
It sounds like they want to pursue a different type of project using the Village Center overlay district zoning.
so that was one. The other thing I'd like to talk about is as we wind down, I didn't know if we as a committee would have an interest to develop our own comments about the project. And not to talk about anybody or anything like that. Is there anything we missed in terms of the process? That would be one of the things I'd like to see if you have an interest to talk about. Are there things that this process didn't allow or, was okay with? I mean, a lot of good things about it. But I just thought if there was an opportunity for our committee members, if you want to take it, to have a discussion amongst ourselves as to what we would want to say to the select board, separate from all the other good things that are going to occur. And so I'd just like you to think about it, and because we have a little bit ways to go, but if there has some merit for any of you to do that, I'd love to hear. I mean, I think we all should agree to either do it or not do it, that are voting members. And so we'll do that, maybe another discussion in a couple weeks or so as we keep moving forward, okay? So think about it. And certainly I need help with, well, what else would we want to talk about? So, but I think it's a learning experience for all of us. And maybe we would want to share that knowledge in terms of the process. So if they decide to do the process again for something, maybe we'll help them learn about what we think about it. And with that in mind, we're doing really well tonight because we're going to ask for adjournment and vote. Unless you have any other comments or suggestions or anything else. Anybody want to say anything else in terms of what we've just experienced?
Well, I would like to say that Mary at one point thought that you talked to a developer. Has that been,
I'm sorry, I'm not
Did
sure.
she-
Mary, oh, Mary Vilba?
yeah, when we were down there on the post the select board meeting. She
Yes,
said-
that was
she-
the meeting that we had with Paul Nitzwicki,
Okay,
and he has had contacts with developers, but we don't
Okay.
know who they are.
Yeah,
okay.
he's mentioned three that have an
So he's
interest.
thought that-
He
tell-
feels there are three developers of interest.
All right,
And two are private and one is a private equity, was how he described the three. That doesn't mean that there aren't other people that have had conversations.
And I will say that the mass development study, some of that they'll do some research on similar to what was done tonight, different facilities, the need,
Right.
what someone that would be looking for this project would kind of want.
that's right.
That will come out of the next steps.
Okay, good.
And most definitely probably out of any financial things, you look to in terms of income and costs, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Okay.
Any other comments or suggestions? John, you've been quiet, and I don't like when John's quiet. I like John when he shares, because you got good ideas, John.
I am all good tonight. Thank you.
You are, all right. Thank you. Could we have that vote? In terms of approval, everybody has said aye, so the vote is approved unanimously. Did I miss
We
something?
didn't adjourn.
I asked
No.
John, said aye. Lindsay,
Who motioned it? Thank
Nobody, that was the last one. I'll move to adjourn.
you, John.
Second.
what was the last one?
Minutes.
Oh,
Mhm.
sorry. John moved and who seconded?
Lindsay.
Lindsay, thank you. Okay, all those in favor, would you please say aye individually? John,
Aye.
Lindsay,
Aye.
Andrew,
Aye.
Barbara,
Aye.
Sharon, aye. Thank you. 7:07.
Record.
It's impressive.
Thanks, you guys. Happy holidays.
Yeah.
Enjoy your Christmas.
Bye-bye.
Bye.